All right, we are now live. Great day, everybody. Welcome to another incredible episode of Seeds of Abundance. I'm extremely excited to be here. It's Matthew Britt coming at you from beautiful Ottawa, Ontario today. The sun is out. Exciting things going on in our world. And as always, my good friend, business partner, Mr. Jim Gale. Great to see you, my friend.
Hey, you too, Matthew. I just want to give everybody a quick look around. We've had a lot of rain in these past few weeks. And look at the new leaves on the zapote. That tree, we put it in really sandy soil, and it looked about dead 3 months ago. And now it's all these new leaves are coming in. Yeah, it's feeling good here in the food forest.
So beautiful. So nice.
Well, and today we have an incredible guest with us who I just so happened to meet recently. Last week, I actually was speaking with her partner and she was in on the call. So as I got to learn a little bit more about what she's doing, I figured she'd be an excellent guest on the show. Dashama, so nice to have you here with us today. We're grateful you made some time. And why don't we start by just you letting us know a little bit about you and where people can find you.
So nice to be here too. I love you guys. I love everything that you're all about. So I guess a little bit about me, let me think. For the past 20 years, I have been a kind of pioneer, trend-setting leader in the wellness industry, I would call it. But I started a couple of trends in the yoga movement. One of them was I created the first online yoga challenge in the world on YouTube in 2008, went viral. I think we've impacted like 1 billion people so far, not directly through my videos, but just as a movement. And that was something that came from my own heart, because I feel like when I started as a yoga teacher, it transformed my life so much that I just wanted everyone to have a little bit of that medicine. So it was coming from that pure place of intention to serve humanity and make the world a better place. And as a result of that, I always feel like the universe steps in and like puts a tidal wave behind it so that everyone can benefit. So that was really interesting. So I traveled the world for 20 years doing all sorts of stuff. And then I ended up becoming a happiness expert because I wrote a couple books. One of them is called Journey to Joyful. And so I ended up speaking at the United Nations for International Day of Happiness. I was inducted into the Happiness Hall of Fame at Stanford. And I have impacted over 100 million people to try to help them to all get in on the happiness wave. And, ultimately, most people are like, well, how did you get into that? And I'm like, I think you can only get into that level of notoriety for happiness by going through the darkest of the dark. And I did. And when I was a little kid, my mother lost her mind when I was 7, and she was taking cocaine and alcohol and different things combining, and she just never got her mind back. And I ended up growing up in foster homes. I traveled many homes learning about people. Basically, I look back on it, I see it was a blessing. I got to experience what every kind of human being is experiencing in their home because I lived with them all. But later, I developed this deep desire to help humanity. And I was like, I know I'm here for that purpose. And then the universe presented lots of opportunities for growth and lots of opportunities for service. And so that's what I've been doing for 20 years. And most recently, I've always been a person that's dedicated and passionate about the environment. Even in high school, I started a whole fundraising to be able to raise money for the redwood forest because they were deforesting the redwoods when I was in high school. And I just always had this thing. I want to save the trees. I want to save humanity. I want to save the planet. I don't know why. I just have that. So basically, then most recently, I started to align myself with a movement we're calling the Miracle Tree Movement, which we can talk about a little bit later. But anyway, super excited because we have a solution for deforestation, a solution for the climate crisis. And it's also a movement, which I'm very familiar with starting movements. And I feel like now is the time, and all of us can join together. Together, I believe everyone can achieve more, like the team concept. And I'm here to serve and make the world a better place. And I think we can all do that better together as we unite our forces as one human family.
I love it. Oh, that's so beautiful. So twice in the last maybe 6 or 7 months, I talked about yoga and meditation. And I talked about it a lot, but on 2 occasions, people said, you cannot speak at this event because meditation and yoga is like some kind of demonic craziness. So
Who said that?
this is amazing. I don't want to name them because that's just not what I do. But
Right.
I was like aghast. I was like, what? Like well, I'm not gonna say there's no better connection, but I can't think of a better connection than presence, which is attained through the definition of yoga. Can you define yoga for our audience?
Absolutely. I've been a yoga teacher for 20 years, and I will say I can understand why people think that way, because within every group, there are bad apples, and there have been some very dark bad apples even in the yoga group. So I'm not going to pretend it's all enlightenment and everything. There's a lot of darkness there because, it's everywhere. Humanity is like that. So I'll just mention that because I came through 20 years of this field, and there were times when I said, I'm out of this too, because there was some stuff that I didn't align with and I didn't believe in. And like, for example, I was working with Harvard for 15 years. This doctor that I really respect has been doing like 25 years of research at Harvard to show how yoga and meditation and different practices help to literally awaken gray matter of your brain and like transform your brain. And so people with insomnia, autism, like ADD, every kind of thing that you could be dealing with, you can actually heal your brain with meditation. But so they have research on that, and it's like MRI brain scans, the whole scientific side of it. But anyway, within that, he was coming from the lineage of this Kundalini yoga, which is from this guy, Yogi Bhajan. And Yogi Bhajan was actually one of the Me Too allegation situations where there was a lot of women coming out of the dark saying, okay, he raped me and stuff. So there's always this corruption in everything, even in the beautiful, like most healing community of the planet where it's healing everybody. Then there's like people in there and they're like the dark forces corrupting the, I call them bad apples. I try to keep it PC, like the bad apple, you have a bad apple and you have all the good apples. If you have one bad apple, it just spoils the whole bag. So that did happen in yoga quite a few times. And so that's perhaps one reason why somebody might come in and say, oh, I don't believe in that, or it's not good. But ultimately, if you've ever had a direct experience with presence, yes. or with the divine, or with your soul, or with God, or with meditation where you truly felt this interconnectedness of everything, the oneness of existence, then you would never think that. So it's really a matter of one's perspective and what their experience is in whatever they're talking about, right? So if somebody's had some kind of dark experience and they're going to label the whole thing dark. And it's always like the same thing with like anything. Like you could, for example, I know people that don't eat fruit and then they're like, fruit is the devil. And, maybe it gave them candida, so they're like, I hate fruit.
I know somebody like that. Yeah.
I know people like that. They're like, they're like the lion diet carnivores, but it's okay. Like everything is perfect. I just say like everybody has their perspective of everything. I try to come from a discerning mind of experience, and that's all we can ever do. Like have a direct experience with God and then tell me about God. Don't talk to me from a pulpit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think you said it during that definition, oneness, right? Yoga is oneness. It's connection. Right? Yeah. It's presence. You said all those words. Yeah. And so for anybody who thinks yoga is some kind of satanic thing, not the way we use it. We use it simply to be connected. I grew up in Minnesota, so I use the word God, right? I use it to be connected to God. And then through that connection, that's where the magic is. That's where the good ideas, the inspired action comes from, is that connection.
100%. I was born in South Dakota, so I totally am with you on the Midwest vibe. And, it's interesting because I work with the founders of the Oneness Temple of India. I've worked with all of the most enlightened people on the planet, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and the Art of Living, Sadhguru and his Isha Foundation. So, I've kind of had a really unique career in this path. And to me, the most important thing I always try to remind people is that there's still the human element. You have to remember that. So regardless, there's this enlightenment concept, like everybody wants to become enlightened, but like what is enlightenment? And exactly what you just said. It's the feeling that we are interconnected with everything. And that includes the plants, the animals, and existence itself, as well as one another. At the same time, there's a lot of dark things on the planet. So do we say, oh, am I connected to that? Yes, we all are. And you can't deny that. We are one of all of it. And we are a little spark. I look at it like we're an extension of source energy here on the planet. And if you're on the side of the light, we're here to bring light into this world. And if they're on the side of the dark, they got that agenda. But anyway, I believe that through the yoga path, like I have healed many things in my own life. And so I have just seen it time and again with literally 100 million people or more like benefiting from that. And so, you know, it's not for everybody, I guess, but I mean, for 1 billion people so far, it's doing a lot of good.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Matthew,
I read it in your bio that you had scoliosis after a car accident, and that yoga helped you heal that. Can you go through a little bit of that journey?
You know, it's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, first of all, there's this, do you guys believe in the psychosomatic connection between your pain and the purpose of the pain? Do you understand about that?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, you attract an accident or a disease or an illness or whatever you're going to attract in order to wake yourself up, right? So it's like, okay, I was on a really bad path. I was drinking all the time. I was like, I got arrested a few times in high school. Like I was kind of a rebel and whatnot. Although at the same time, I got all A's and I never studied. So I had this unique thing. So I was like, okay, I'm doing pretty well. I called that balance. But anyway, back then I was living a life of balance between getting arrested at school for drinking and then getting like, you know, summa cum laude. But basically at around 18, my soul decided to self-destruct and I almost died like 10 times in 1 year. It was really extreme. The last part of that 1 year of almost dying, which included a thyroid disease that ended in like a surgery to remove thyroid and all sorts of other really difficult things that happened all in 1 year when I was 18. The last part was getting hit by a car. Literally, I was riding my bicycle. It was the day before my birthday, and I was riding my bicycle, and I got T-boned by this car going 45 miles per hour. I ended up on a stretcher with a neck brace and the ER and all sorts of stuff. And, you know, I was very stubborn at the time. I'm like, I'm fine, even though it was like not that fine, but nothing broke. So I was like, okay, we're good. And so I went home and we continued to drink margaritas all night because I was like, it was my birthday.
You're in that phase.
You know, it was like that. But so it didn't wake me up fully at the point. But basically what happened was it gave me scoliosis. And so scoliosis, what it is that your spine gets out of alignment. And I think of everything as like a message. So like the misalignment of my spine, I think, was the message. It was like, I'm out of alignment. I was out of alignment with my soul. I didn't have a purpose at that point. And I was really out of alignment with health and wellness and like taking care of myself and all that. I was just like doing whatever. And so it woke me up in that sense. A couple years later, I quit drinking. It did take me a few more years to quit drinking even after that. But I got scoliosis. And so I had like this chronic back and neck pain. And I was just suffering, you know. And I went to chiropractors and nothing was helping. And I was getting 2 massages a week. It wasn't really helping. So I went to yoga school and it actually really changed my life, even though it didn't heal my spine completely with yoga, but it helped alleviate the pain because a lot of the pain is because the muscles are getting pulled out of alignment. And so I was having all this tension. So the yoga, it stretches that, it releases that. And there was a lot of like, just like relief that I received from just the practice of yoga. So then at some point, I think I was like 4 years into teaching. Well, actually, no, the first year that I started teaching the miracle of life, I attracted this marketing guru as a client. He's like, you got to go on YouTube. I didn't even know what YouTube was. It was the first year that YouTube launched, and he launched my YouTube channel. And I didn't even look at the YouTube again for 1 year because I didn't think about it. 1 year later, my videos had gone viral on there. And I was like, oh, what is it? I didn't even know what viral meant. I was like, this is cool. I got like hundreds of thousands of video views or whatever. And then it was like a unique thing. So it was just like the timing. You know, I launched kind of like this catalyzing of this thing that I started called 30-Day Yoga Challenge. And I got like millions of people doing yoga every day because it was helping me. So I was like, okay, do yoga every day. It'll help you feel better. Literally, I was getting like thousands of messages from people around the world, like help me, I need healing. And I was like, I don't know how to help all these people. You know, it's just like overwhelming, but I was trying to help everybody. So I started like a DVD series. I started online courses. I wrote my book. And then that's when I was like, I'm going to have a TV show. And then I literally, I was like, I got to move to LA to have a TV show. This was like 2010. So I drove to LA, and on the way there, my friend who wrote this book called The Miracle Morning, he calls me up. He's Dashama. He's like, did you know Oprah is auditioning to have, you can have a show on the Oprah network? And I was like, oh, perfect. He's like, you got to audition. So I was like, okay. So I go to my friend's house. He was working with the Elevate film community in LA. And They helped me film my audition video. I got in the top 1% out of 20,000 auditions. And it was like such a cool thing because I was like, yeah, people do care about this message, which is like you can heal your life kind of thing. Like, but it also had a message of philanthropy, healing the world. It was a little bit of, it was ahead of the time. So everyone's like, no one's going to watch that. They just want to watch Suki on like freaking New Jersey Housewives or whatever and like drink. So basically it didn't get to become a show at that point, but I got a lot of confirmation from like how popular my audition was that I was like, people do care. And so anyway, I kind of launched this like traveling movement. Like for about 15 years after that, I traveled the world teaching, and I was a professional paddleboard yoga athlete. I launched a whole line of paddle boards, and I started a movement like people doing yoga on paddle boards. And actually I did a whole thing called Be the Change, where we were trying to solve the plastic pollution in the ocean for 5 years. And so basically I traveled the world for all these years doing that. Most recently, I came full circle, and I'm gonna go back to my initial dream of healing the trees, which are the lungs of the planet. And we can talk more about that if you want to.
I'd love to. Matthew, any questions before we get into the trees?
No, I think that's a great transition. She's had a dramatic impact on the world through yoga and breath, which ties into the lungs of the earth. And now let's go into the miracle tree and what you guys are pulling together here.
Here's the thing. Ever since I was a kid, I was like, the trees, I just knew. First of all, I grew up in a very rural place where we had lots of trees. I had a tree house. We would do everything with the trees. And so I always had this like love of trees, not just like, oh, trees are cool, but I was like, I love the trees. So anyway, long story short, we got this amazing solution to literally the problems of the world. And it's funny because people are like, how do you call this tree the miracle tree? So I'm going to explain to you why it's called the miracle tree. Okay, so our friend Paul, or I'll just say this guy that we know, I don't want to go into his thing because I don't want anybody messing with Paul because he's an inventor of the most amazing things. And a lot of times inventors get, messed with. So we want to keep him protected. But basically, Paul is a genius and he invents stuff. But basically, he invented this tree where he has taken the best of all these amazing trees and kind of put them together. And then he's blasting the roots with scalar frequencies and all sorts of like different types of energy that makes them grow literally to full size in 3 years instead of 15 to 20. So it's like almost like a bamboo, but it's a full tree. It's like a oak tree almost, it's like that kind of tree, but it's so beautiful. It literally looks like a Japanese cherry blossom. It has these purple and pink flowers. And then it's also the most remarkable thing about the tree, to be honest, is that if you cut the tree down for lumber, you sell the lumber, then it grows itself back out of its own stump. So you never have to replant it. That's why this is literally a solution for the climate crisis and for deforestation, because all these forests keep burning, and that's because of different reasons. But basically the forest burns down. This tree grows itself back every time, and it's amazing. And the other thing that's so amazing is that it basically can grow almost anywhere, except for it can't grow under 45 degrees, like negative 45. But basically it even like refortifies the nutrition of the soil by virtue of how it grows. And then it's like 5 times lighter than normal wood. So they call it the aluminum of wood because it's lighter, but it's actually harder. So it's like more durable, it's waterproof, bug resistant, and it literally, if you have bees, you can grow up to 100 liters of honey per acre with that. And a lot of people who understand about plants and animals know that the bees are like the quintessential thing of the planet. There's this whole movement, save the bees, because if you don't save the bees, the whole planet will die. And literally this is a part of the solution of that. So it solves the bees, the lumber, and all the deforestation, and then the trees are the lungs of the planet. These trees sequester 11 times more carbon than a normal tree and produce 6 to 11 times as much oxygen per tree because the leaves are exceptionally big and they grow fast. So it's like this miracle tree. You see what I mean? So it's just like the never-ending epicness. And also the actual bark of the tree is medicinal, and it's more anti-inflammatory than turmeric. So you can use the bark for medicine. The flowers produce honey. The tree itself produces lumber. You can use it for pellets for wood burning, electricity, and then the ashes from that can be used for graphene. So it's literally like 1,000 different things that you can do with these miracle trees, and they grow so fast and they regenerate themselves. So we're on a mission to get these miracle trees to as many people and as many farms and as much land to get them growing as we can, because this is going to solve so many problems on Earth with the deforestation, and like we said, it's like the lungs of the planet. So, we need oxygen to breathe. So it solves so many things.
Wow, that's fascinating. So Paul has really been working on grafting, I guess, combining some of the best of different genes of trees and combining them together to create this thing. For
25 years, it's been in development. It's getting better all the time. So like a few years ago, let's say 5 years ago, the trees were growing to full size between 7 to 10 years. Now it's already down to 3 to 7. Literally, they're getting better all the time because they just keep blasting the roots with the frequencies, and that's what makes them grow.
That's amazing. Am I back? I cut out for a second there.
Yeah, you're back, and your signal's better.
Yeah,
okay.
You're back.
Oh, good. So as a permaculturalist, right, as somebody who likes to observe and interact with the natural system and who realizes that nature has infinite wisdom, right? Yeah. There are a million questions that come to mind that need to be asked about these trees. Now, I've spoken to Paul, and it feels like there is something absolutely miraculous, divine, beautiful here. And at the same time, I want to make sure that we ask the right questions. So one of the questions I asked is, can this tree become invasive? And the answer to that made me feel a lot better. Do you want to describe the answer to that, or should I?
Oh, I love to. Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, the cool thing is that it's not like a seedless watermelon. They've bred out the seed element. So they actually just plant the roots and the stem cells regenerate. So there's no seeds. So there's no chance of ever being invasive. There's no seeds. It's only being done through the root system.
That's absolutely amazing. I would advocate for study on that, like Jurassic Park, life finds a way, right? So I think it's really important that and I'm going to be receiving some of these trees. I'm very excited to put those in the ground for multiple reasons. But my primary reason is to observe and interact with these trees and to put them on film and to really make sure that there's no unintended consequences, because this truly sounds like and like everything that sounds super good. Sometimes these things are true, sometimes they're not, and I think this one is. But I also advocate for making sure that when people get these trees, especially at the beginning, they really observe and interact with them to make sure that they're healing and helping the environment. Right?
Here's the main thing that I want to emphasize with that. Number one, 25 years they've already been growing this. So this is not like, it's a test to see how it goes. They've been growing, they're in the ground, and they've been doing, so they have the research already in the ground trees. And the other thing that I want to emphasize is that we're not really, like, you are an inside person, Jim. So you're getting the trees. We're not getting these trees to everybody. But what we are inviting people to be a founding member of the Miracle Tree Movement, and they can, offset their carbon footprint, come to our biohacking retreat, tree planting ceremony, and weekend retreat. And you can literally be a part of this, but we're not literally shipping these trees to people's houses. Like, this is not what we're doing. Only you, Jim, you got the special insider thing for that. But we're planting them on our land so that we grow them properly, so that we can make sure that everybody, gets what they want out of that. So basically, people can do two things. They can plant the trees. We're planted them for them already. They're already planted, and then they can offset their carbon footprint for literally just 7 trees. So 7 trees is the average amount of carbon that people are doing within a 5-year period. So every 5 years, you can offset your entire carbon footprint with these trees. But the other thing is, people who come to the founders event, they can also make money with this. So basically, whenever we cut the tree in 3 years or 5 years to sell the lumber, we're giving them 3x their investment back. So then they're going to make money. It's an investment, but they're also doing the carbon offset. But we're not like inviting people to buy a tree and shipping trees around the world.
Right. You're not going to have 10,000 different tree locations in a minute.
We have 2,000 acres. We have 2,000 acres. We're going to plant on my partner's land. And then we're just doing our own land. We're going to go for 1 million trees, but we're just doing our own land because that's how we're going to be able to make sure that they get grown properly. You know, we don't just send them to people. Hey, here's a tree. And then, you know, it's not going to happen like that. You're very special. You're getting some trees shipped to you, but not everybody.
Well, and I'm going to take good care.
Yeah, I want to make sure everybody understands they can all participate. They can be a part of the movement, and they can, you know.
What are the dates?
The dates is September. Oh, it's the equinox. So it's actually so exciting. It's the fall equinox, September 21 and 22, which is exactly a month away. It's in Idaho Falls, which is so beautiful. But the really cool thing, besides for the tree planting ceremony and the carbon offset and the money they can make from the ROI on that, also, it's a biohacking center. Literally, Paul's an inventor of like genius level. He has things that will make you live 100 years longer just because. So you go there, it's stem cell therapy. He has this like bed that he calls it the vortex bed. It spins and it like reverses the telomeres and you stop aging. And there's just literally like, it's a heaven for people that are into that stuff, biohacking. So we're doing a combination. It's like the tree planting and the founders launch event of the Miracle Tree Movement, as well as this biohacking retreat center, bringing people together. And there's only 33 spots that we're inviting people to come. So I want to emphasize that if anybody's like super like, yes, I'd like to be a part of this, definitely go to the miracletree.org right away and just secure your spot, because this is a very limited access thing. And then we're literally going to plant 1 million trees on my partner's land. So we're not going to be like everybody can participate eventually, but there will be different ways that people can support the movement and benefit from it. But we're not shipping trees around the world. You can come and be a part of this. So
that's beautiful. That, you know, at least for the first generation, for the first bit, that way we really study these trees. And the way you're doing it, it does seem like the most ethical and thoughtful way. I also really want to quickly build a bridge to this carbon narrative, right? Because I would say 95% of the people that are in our freedom movement think that the carbon narrative is a control narrative. But here's the cool part. Whether people think that carbon is good or bad, right? Carbon is the building block of life, right? And where carbon is supposed to be is in the soil.
Right.
It's in the biomass. It's in life.
Oxygen. Yeah, we need the oxygen to breathe. That's the main thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw an infographic the other day. I don't know if you probably see these things, but anyway, China is building a forest, or everybody needs to do a forest. But anyway, they're trying to do forest cities now because their air quality is so bad. Same thing, Mexico City. There's so many bad quality air regions, and they need this because that's what the tree does. The tree goes in, pulls this garbage out of the air, and it just purifies air. So literally, that's actually like a huge need on the planet. And that's what these trees can really do.
Yeah. Oh, it is a huge need. It's absolutely huge. That's what we're all about, is getting more trees in the ground. And yours produces lumber. It produces, for honey. It produces medicine. And then, of course, we add the food forest around there with 1,000 other different types of food and medicine producing trees. And then we've got peace on earth.
Exactly. And you know what, Jim? I was thinking about this too. This is what we want to do. Like, I love what you do. And so we were like, what we want to do eventually, once we get these forests going, we're going to put communities there. So people can buy like a dome house or a tiny house, whatever, kind of like live there, and they can grow the food with, your techniques or however you want to do that with them. And then like communities, because I really believe, I've been a part of like community building for my whole life. And I'm like, that's what people yearn for. It's like to be a part of a like-minded, really good community where people support each other, love each other, and like enjoy life together in a nature environment, in a place where you have abundance in food and everything that you need is taken care of in that environment. And that's what we want to create with this too. So we're going to have the land, we're going to have the trees, you're going to have the forest with the food from you. And then we're going to have housing because we have these really cool geodesic domes that can be made out of the wood from the trees. And then it's just going to be so beautiful. But this is just the very, very beginning. That's why we're doing the founders event for people that are like, oh my God, that's my dream too. Like, to come be a part of it and be like, all right, we're going to launch this. You can be a part of it. That's what it's all about, is community, and everybody can work together to make the world a better place.
I love it. You nailed it. Community is the glue, right? Off-grid, decentralized food, water, energy is the foundation, and the community is the glue that holds the foundation really together.
For sure. Yeah, I'm so
It's
excited.
so fascinating how the carbon has been vilified, right, by the narrative, the global narrative of we have to limit carbon in the atmosphere because it is destroying and causing this global warming and all of these other things. When I can't even believe it, the percentage, the atmosphere is made up of many different things, right? It's not just carbon. There's nitrogen, there's oxygen, there's argon, there's water vapor, there's all kinds of other things in it. Carbon is 0.03% of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So of all the different things that make up the atmosphere, carbon is 0.03%. And they're saying this is the one thing that we know is the basis of life, right? The more carbon we have, the greener life is on the planet. But it's also like, it's
The devil.
amazing how foolish we are believing these things that they tell us when it's such a microscopic amount of the whole atmosphere that they're determining is the thing that we need to now completely reverse and limit.
Yeah, and good stuff. And the part that's most relevant to me is back a couple hundred years ago, 1,000 years ago, there was twice the carbon in the atmosphere, and we had more life on Earth.
Yes.
So we need more of these trees. It sounds like.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how you get all the commies to become capitalists. Is kind of how we see it. So basically, a lot of people feel like it has to be one thing sacrificed for another. And like capitalism is actually the opposite. It's saying that we can all prosper by doing this together instead of like we all need to sacrifice, so there's two sides of that coin. And I feel like a lot of the green movement has been stuck in the dinosaur age a little bit because they're like, oh, we need to sacrifice instead of like, hey, let's all prosper together and make this movement. So basically, I think that what we want to do is we want to convert as many people that are in the old school mentality, which commies is kind of this kind of layman's terms, but basically the old school mentality of, we need to just stop having carbon. Everyone needs to take a 2-second shower and drive a Tesla. That's going to help the world. And the truth is, first of all, Tesla's powered by fossil fuels. Like the whole greenwashing thing is really annoying. And I'm just like sick of that. And I don't hold back on when I speak. I just tell the truth. Like everybody knows it's just annoying. Like we don't want to see any more greenwashing. I traveled the world for 5 years as a professional yoga paddleboarder, and I was promoting plastic, getting the plastic out of the ocean on a plastic paddleboard. And I couldn't. And then I said, I can't do this anymore because it just is such a contradiction. And I think that that's happening in every single sector where people are like, we got to, get the carbon out of the air. So we're going to drive a Tesla, but the Tesla's powered by the fossil fuel. And it's like, wait a minute. Why doesn't anybody see this situation like for what it is? Call a spade a spade. We don't have to be in a delusion. We can actually act in truth and actually like make a change if we're intelligent. And that's what we're all about. So I feel like this is the intelligent change that the world is ready for, and for intelligent people that are ready to make that kind of change and take a stand for that and to prosper in the journey in that direction instead of like try to, be a martyr for some like greenwashing bullshit.
And enjoy it. It's so much fun. Right? I did a video just last week where I said, okay, if you could have $100 million condo, the fanciest condo on the top floor, and you had to live there, or you had to live in the food forest, which one would you choose? Well, of course, everybody said, I'd rather live in the food forest, right? It'd be better. And I'm not saying it's not great to have both, right? It's great to be able to go to the condo for the weekend and have fun there. But man, there's something absolutely divine about walking outside and having your feet on the ground and then just eating from the trees all over the place. Those dangerous fruits.
I loved what you said earlier, Jim, when you spoke about I always just say the infinite intelligence of nature. It literally is divine. And I think that anybody who can connect to the infinite divine intelligence of Mother Nature could never like go back, you like you're saying condo. I lived in those condos. They're so void of prana. The energy is just blocked. And then you're in an EMF tower, basically. And it's just like not good for your frequency. And that's why so many people get sick, diseases, cancers. And that's not the only reason, but your environment is highly contributing to your health and wellness and your well-being. This is also another reason why everybody's got mental illness. I mean, there's many reasons. And I've been a crusader to help the mental health of the humanity for many years, but ultimately it's largely connected to this deep-rooted core disconnect from Mother Nature. Literally, there's even like therapy. They're like calling it forest bathing. It's like, oh, they're prescribing now. If you just go walk in the nature, it will help you. Yeah, we've known that for thousands of years, but now like you got to go to a psychotherapist to get a prescription because people are so disconnected, they don't do it. So anyway, I believe 100% what you just said, Jim. And I really, I've always been, even when I was a kid, my mom grew all our own food and everything. It was really cool. So I always had this relationship to Mother Nature, but my observation of humanity is that it becomes more and more disconnected. So our mission is to reverse that disconnect and to bring people closer to nature. And there's nothing that can do it more than trees, planting trees, and growing your own food, which I'm not saying everybody needs to grow your own food because it's pretty difficult. Most people can't figure out how to grow anything. But basically, the idea that they could participate in a community that's all about that, and just by virtue of moving in that direction, it starts to heal your soul. It starts to heal even your gut microbiome starts celebrating when it knows that you're going to get some food that came out of the actual organic earth instead of a Monsanto farm. And that's just how I feel about that.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. And I do want to dispel one myth. I don't grow anything, right? I do not grow any food. Food grows itself. What we do is we provide the functional elements around the trees. Like this ice cream bean tree, at the base of the tree is perennial peanut and some comfrey. And that little guild there heals the soil. They're all nitrogen fixers and dynamic accumulators. So the nature does all the work when we design it and install it properly.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, you provided the space and you created the container for that in your space. So that's the infinite intelligence of man working with nature. Now, nature can grow itself too. I mean, it's doing that all the time. But at the same time, when we work together in harmony with nature, then we have the win-win, because then the humans also can figure out how to live on this planet finally, once and for all, in harmony. And that's our mission is to.
That's our mission.
Yeah.
And the way we grow food today, what makes it so time, energy, money, and resource intensive is that it's fighting nature, and nature is relentless. It's never going to lose. So we're fighting a losing battle. When are we going to smarten up? When are we going to realize that we need to let nature do what it does best and just be great stewards and empower it to do so and capitalize on the abundance that's there for all of us?
100%. Yeah, here's the thing. Like I've done a lot of plant medicine, but also meditation. So like this disconnect is it happens on the microcosm and on the macro level. So we'll say the microcosm is on the individual level. So when a human is completely disconnected from themselves, then how can they possibly be connected to earth or, anything, energy or anything? So it's literally like it's hand in hand. So when you see the planet is going so out of balance, I actually started a whole brand. It's called the flow state. And the flow state to me is the reason that I started my whole brand around that is that it's literally like the whole existence is in this state of flow. Like literally universe, the earth, everything's in flow. It's us that's out of flow. Like humans are out of flow. So humans come in with the ego and the desire and the greed, and we come in and block the flow of everything. And then we're like putting dams in the rivers and we're putting pollution in the oceans and we're blocking the flow of everything. And then the war and all that. But basically to return to the harmony, we'll call it, return to what they would call in Taoism, the kind of like the nothingness, the Zen, whatever. I call that the flow state, the oneness, is that we must come to connect to ourselves first. And that's why I spent my whole life dedicated to like meditation and teaching that kind of stuff. But it goes hand in hand, because when you pick a fruit off the tree and you're eating from the fruit of Mother Nature, it's so different than getting it from the grocery, even though it may be the same piece of fruit, that you have this experience of origin and the source. And when you get connected more and more to the source, whether it's the source of your food, the source of your own joy, the source of fulfillment, then all of this disease on the planet can start to alleviate itself, because it actually doesn't belong here at all. It's a foreign entity. It's an alien. Anxiety, depression, that doesn't belong here. All of these diseases and problems. It's literally just the soul telling the humans you're out of connection, you're out of balance, and to return to source. And so, yeah, through this, I hope that we can help more people to feel that and to want to be a part of that and to spread that as a movement.
That's beautiful. That's what we are all here to do. It's ultimately there's one source of all wisdom, all intelligence, all consciousness, all awareness. And when we tap into that, then we start having similar thoughts. And that's what's happening. This is the apocalypse, which means lifting the veil, right? This is the ascension of human consciousness, the great awakening happening now. And it's happening throughout the planet. So, I mean, I see such an epic and beautiful future. We're going to be traveling the stars in our generation. Like in the next 20 or 30 years, it's going to be normal because we're going to we're going to rise above the war narrative and the hate and the divide and the suffering. There's going to be kind of a bumpy road between now and then, and it might be really bumpy, right? But the more we can stand up with the energy, the frequency of faith and courage and joy and love and service, like you keep using that word service, the more we do that, the faster we get to that next phase, which is going to be so much fun.
100%. And you know, one thing that I learned over my life is because a lot of people, they see all the dark stuff going on. They're like, oh, this one lady the other day, she tried to tell me, because I'm very optimistic. I'm like, I think humanity is awakening and it's getting better all the time. And she's like, I don't see that. She's like, I see it's getting worse. And her mindset was coming from the lens of just looking at what is it, like in the media, especially. And I was like, well, they always say the darkest hour is the hour just before the dawn, and so we're in the darkest hour. And so we can't forget that. Like, it's one thing to, like, you and I, Jim, I can feel you. Like, we're already on the other side of that. We're like looking back, like, come on, guys, we're over here. So, like, okay, but the large part of humanity is in the dark hour. We call it the dark night of the soul. We could call it dark night of humanity. It's in the dark hour right now. And I'm not going to put a sugar coating on that. It's clear, but not everybody. So if you have 6 billion or 8 billion people on the earth, and then, like, let's say 99.9% of them are going through that. So it's like, okay, have a little bit of compassion, empathy, or whatever. But ultimately, we know where we're going. And as a visionary, if you can see 100 years or 20, like you just said, 30 years from now, that we know where we're going. We know what it looks like on the other side, where it's 5D and people are like tapped in. Now you have to go through the dark night. I have seen, because I've been a healer for my whole life, I have seen so many people, including myself, go through a dark night of the soul, come out stronger, more powerful, more connected, more full of light. And literally, that's the way that humans have organized ourselves to grow, is like go through the darkest stuff and then like come out and be better and grow and more light and more connection to source. And so it's like this kind of, I always looked at it like this kind of like ebb and flow, or you could say it's like a contraction and an expansion. So we're in a contraction moment on humanity where like everybody's really like in this dark moment, but it's like always at the other side of contraction is expansion. And that's how the universe breathes itself. It's literally contraction, expansion. So it's the same as the stock market, it goes up and down and up and down. It can't be like always up. And it's not just in a flat line. It's got to go this up and down. And that's how we experience contrast. That's how we experience growth. That's how we expand. So ultimately, when people look out and see the wars, because I've been a part of, one of my good friends has a nonprofit global empowerment mission. They're bringing $200 million of aid to the war in Gaza and Ukraine. And, there's a lot of dark stuff on the earth, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not. But at the same time, there are certain key power people that are holding the torch of humanity to be able to see that, no, this is not where we end up. This is just that moment in time, the dark ages or whatever. And then we're moved through that. And then we get to the Renaissance. And it's been like that from the dawn of humanity, contraction, expansion. And you can't discredit the contraction periods, because even like you're going to have birth, you got to do that in order to like get the baby out. Like, it's like that. Humanity is rebirthing itself. The word Renaissance literally translates as means rebirth. So I really think we're moving into a Renaissance on Earth.
Oh, I got the chills. My partners use that term a lot when we talk about what we're here to do, is to do everything in our combined loving, joyful, service-oriented power to catalyze the shift that leads to, faster renaissance, faster awakening, right? And I also will say that there's more learning. More people have learned stuff through the suffering, right? Because you use the word contrast. Contrast and friction creates asking new questions. It compels us to say, oh my God, that wasn't working. How can I do better, right? It just breaks down the ego barriers.
100%. And that's the thing. I think everybody, like, somehow in the delusion of the humanity, they go, man, we should just be happy. And somewhere along the way, somebody said that once, which is the purpose of life is to be happy. And I want to say, because I'm a happiness expert, I don't think that that's actually the purpose of life. But one thing that we can master is to learn how to find joy even in the darkest moments. That, yes. But not the purpose of all life is just to be happy. No, actually, we're here to grow, and we only grow through darkness. But if you can smile and laugh through that, then you're winning. Then you're a master. So that's what I always like to emphasize, because I think, I was a happiness expert my whole career, and then people get confused by that because they think that means you're always happy. But to me, the only mastery of that is that you can find the joy even in the darkness.
Yeah. That all taps into, your brain and how much control you consciously implement on it, right? Because we can choose our thoughts.
Yeah.
We can choose what we focus our attention on. We can choose to hold blame and anger and resentment and those things. And we can also choose to release them. And what I have noticed is that a lot of people carry around a sled of shit of all the problems they've had in their life. And they bring it with them wherever they go. And that sled of shit prevents them from moving forward. And if they could just realize that I can release this. Yes, it was an experience, but it doesn't define me. Holding the anger towards somebody who did something to you, or you believe they did something to you, that person is still eliciting power over you if you're holding on to that.
Yeah.
So I have chosen in my life to forgive everybody. What does it matter? Right? Love everybody. Know that everybody is doing the best they can at the time with the resources that they have. I'm not perfect. I don't need to be. Neither are they. They don't need to be. But I'm not going to give them the power over me beyond whatever incident it was. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to love them. I'm going to project that out to the world, to them. And that frees me to go keep being happy and create new opportunities for myself and attract new great people, new great opportunity into my life. And every one of us can do this too. Every one of us.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. What came to my mind as you were sharing that was this thought about the coal. They say like anger is where you hold the coal and you expect the other person to get burned. And you think about that. And so it's like this harming mechanism, which goes back to disconnect from self. Because if you really loved yourself, you wouldn't want to harm yourself by holding on to that anger and that coal and the vindictive resentment or victimhood or whatever. Ultimately, it makes me also think about this other element of, like the flow state, because, I told you my brand is all flow state. So it was like, okay, so what is flow? So I've seen it defined as discipline meets surrender, which is maybe part of it. But I think that there's this bigger vision of flow, which is literally like, you can't be attached to anything. And like what you just described, like the story of the past is the biggest attachment to people, their identity. They're identifying with the story of the past, carrying it into this moment, and it's sabotaging this moment. So therefore, it's going back to what Jim said, which is about being present. So it's like, okay, if you're carrying that old story and you were a victim there, now you're a victim here, you're carrying that into this moment, now you're sabotaging this moment, and then you're ruining everybody else's moment with it. So therefore, you're just like a toxic disease. And so what I like to, wake people up to the truth is, okay, so what you can do is recognize that the only power you have is in letting go. And if you can let go of the story, your identity, and then just tap into like, what is the highest expression of my soul to fulfill my divine purpose in this life as an extension of God and source energy in this human experience? What is that? And get better at asking good questions. That's when you can liberate yourself and become truly happy, which is like just a liberation from the past.
I want to put thought into better at asking good questions. That is so important, right? This idea of affirmations, fine. Affirmations are okay. But when we ask a new question that leads us intentionally to a better life, please share more about asking good questions.
Number one, I'll tell you one thing. When I changed my life, when I had that car accident, and I got really depressed for like a year. I won't go into the whole story, but it was about actually what happened. I won't go into it. Okay, so that's a funny part of the story. I got really depressed around 23 years old. I was so depressed because I was working a corporate job at that time. And I was like, this cannot be the end of my life. So I started to ask myself questions, because after being depressed for a while, you have to just figure out, how do I get out of this? So I asked myself, okay, what would I do if money was no object? So it wasn't about money. What would I do with my energy, my time, my life that could bring me joy? And most people don't know what brings them joy because they're just doing the motions of life. It's like a rat race thing. So basically, as I asked that question, I started to know myself more. And that was the starting point of really understanding that the power of questions to yourself, also to other people, but like literally asking yourself good enough questions that it can like catalyze the awakening of your own consciousness into a new direction. Because otherwise you stay stuck and you stay in the old pattern and the old program and the old identity. So it's like, okay, this is my favorite question that I have these days, which is like, what is the highest timeline for me right now? And like just doing that instead of like, oh, I got to go through these steps. And maybe it's like 20 years of steps. Oh, because like, okay, well, you could do all that, or you could just go to the highest timeline. So it's like, what would that be? And asking that is the catalyst to like quantum leaping to a different reality for oneself that's more in alignment with their joy, happiness, and like abundance or whatever they're trying to get. So in that sense, that kind of question is like life changing. And like most people don't know how to like where to get the question. So I'm giving it to you for free today. You can take my question. It's not trademarked.
I love it.
Ask this question and then keep asking until you get the answer. And the only way to get the answer is to literally get quiet. And that's why I taught meditation for my whole life. Get quiet enough that you can hear the answer. Yes. This is a big problem. There's so much noise that they can't hear the answer, distractions, and they're addicted to stuff. And it's like always time is being filled with a lot of external stimulation. So you don't hear the voice inside. But if you don't even ask, then you're already, blocked. But like if you ask, now the next step is you have to get quiet enough inside to hear the answer. And then the other thing I like to teach people, which I love, is how to listen to the voice internally through feeling. Because I spent my whole life, I'm a very sensitive, empathic HSP, if you know what that is, highly sensitive person. So I had this I thought it was a detriment, but I later learned it was a superpower when I got understanding of it. So basically, you have this sensitivity. Now, most people don't know how to know what to do in life. So they just try to do things and they bump around and they get into a lot of messes. But if you can ask your higher self, which is God in you, if you say, okay, let me ask a question. It has to be a yes or no question. You guys want to try it with me? You don't have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Think of a question that you have. It has to be a yes or no answer to the question. Here's just as an example. I'll give an easy one. I'm here in New York, and then I'm going to go to the Hamptons because my cousin's wedding. So if I was going to say, should I go to the Hamptons for my cousin's wedding? That's a yes or no, right? So you have to just ask that. It's got to be yes or no. So you close your eyes, you take a few breaths, you relax yourself, and then you ask the question. Has to be yes or no answer, and then sit with it. Okay, for literally should take less than 5 to 10 seconds. It's not a long thing. And then if it's yes, then you will feel this expansive, loving presence inside your heart, your mind, and the upper energy centers will feel like a yes. If it's no, it'll immediately feel a sinking contraction. That's it. It's the whole thing. So if people can tap into that, then they can make better decisions. And this is also a big thing. So learning the good questions, asking the self, listening, then taking action. And if you don't do that last part, that's where everybody gets tripped up because they know what they need to do and they don't do it. Then 20 years later, they're like, oh, I know my friend told me to get into Bitcoin 20 years ago. I didn't do it when it was 85 cents. Now they're kicking themselves like everybody. The point is, listen and then take the action. And even if you're afraid, even if you're like, I don't know if it's a good idea, you know it's a good idea because the answer was yes. And the soul never lies. It will never steer you down the wrong path.
Yeah. Awesome. That is a beautiful question to ask. And it goes along with, so many things that I practice as well. Gosh, I just want to thank you so much for all the love and energy and wisdom that you're sharing with humanity. It's profound and it's beautiful.
Thank you. I love you. I love everything you guys are up to and stand for, and so excited to work with you. Excited for the trees to get to your farm. I can't wait. And hopefully you'll be at the founding members launch event in September. It's going to be so fun and so beautiful. And it's just the beginning. But, our team has a movement. And so it's going to be big. So
you better be there, Jen.
Better be there.
Oh, I will be, brother.
Well, hey, Dashama, it's been excellent to learn from you today, to spend time in your presence and feel the radiant glow you're putting out to the world with everything you've been doing with yoga, and now, pouring that into life, bringing back the breath of the earth with the miracle trees. So we thank you for what you're doing and for sharing your passion with us and our audience today. Everybody, please go to miracletree.org, check out the event that they're doing in September. And if you can get there, be one of the first 33 founding members. Thank you so much for tuning in
I'm
today.
so happy to know you. Thank you, guys, and have a blessed day. I look forward to connecting
you.
Us too. Thank you, Dashama. All right, have a
great
great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao.